What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and joining me for this review of 90 Day Fiance, The Tell All, Season 9, Part 1. Let's talk about the pre show before the show actually got started. When the cast members are arriving, before they get all glammed up, everybody was amped up. Everybody was real gangster, talking about, if anybody says anything wrong to me, I'm going to put them in their place. And I didn't come here to play. And I'm ready for this. And I'm ready to go toe to toe with anybody who wants to, say anything about me. I just didn't understand where all this attitude, where all of this aggression was coming from. This is just a little tell all, okay, y'all? It's just a little reunion. This is not, the WWE or whatever the hell they're calling it these days. It is not that. This is just a little reunion for us just to talk about what happened in this season. So calm down. Eve says that she's stressed out about being the sole provider. Ari came in saying that she's ready to do battle. I mean, that goes in line with what I was saying. Like, why are we approaching this reunion in a very aggressive way? I don't know if these cast members were like, going through some type of a Twitter battle or Instagram battle. I don't know if they like go at each other online on social media, if they're attacking each other there. I have no idea. I did not understand where all this aggression was coming from. Thais and Patrick, they tell us they have moved to Las Vegas. I know that Thais has got to be very happy about that because she wants to live in a very exciting, happening city. And Jabri tells us that the tell-all is not ready for him. And he was absolutely right because I was not prepared with how much Jabri we got in this tell-all. He has something to say about everybody's storyline. He was starting fights with Ari, starting fights with John. He was all over the place. And it almost seemed like he was trying to compete with Sean for her job as show host because he was in everybody's business and has something to say about everybody. So now let's get to the actual show. Let's start off with, I want to talk about Bilal and Shaeeda. So they say that they're still getting to know each other, that this whole situation is definitely a process for them, which, okay, it didn't sound very optimistic, but that's true. Getting to know someone, trying to get used to living with someone, being in the early phases of marriage, it's definitely a process. That is definitely 100% true. So, Shaeeda said that she was in absolute shock when she arrived in the United States because of, the prank that Bilal had pulled on her, taking her to his childhood home and making it out like it was his current home. And Shaeeda said that when Bilal went to Trinidad, her and her family had given him like a royal welcome. They laid it all out for him. They wanted him to feel absolutely comfortable. They wanted him to be impressed with Trinidad. So they pulled all the shots for him. So she didn't understand how come when she came to the U.S., she didn't get the same in return, which is a good point. That's a very good point. But we all know that Bilal had an agenda. He was trying to test Shaeeda to see if she was really there for him, regardless of his situation, or was she there just to live comfortably off of his money. So they talk about the prank and they talk about how in the car when she was hitting him on the back of the head. So Kobe said that the prank had put her in a position where she would come out looking like a gold digger. So Kobe was very critical of this prank that Bilal pulled on Shaeeda. And I totally agree with Kobe that for him to do that prank, it was going to be like, if Shaeeda was completely honest with herself, she was going to come out looking bad. If she made it known that she wasn't expecting him to live in a house like that. And I think with Shaeeda, her issue wasn't that he was living in a dilapidated home, which I didn't even think it was that dilapidated. Her issue wasn't the type of home that it was. Her issue was the numbers weren't adding up. If you come off as someone who buys the finest things, you have your designer bags, your Louis Vuitton luggage or whatever the hell he had, everything, your designer, from head to toe, you're dressed in designer clothing, designer shoes, designer this, designer that. You got a name brand watch. Everything about you is dripping money on social media. But then when she comes to your home, you were living in an average home. It just wasn't adding up. It was probably like, you probably were wearing more in your outfits than what this house cost. So it wasn't making sense to Shaeeda. And I don't know why Bilal didn't think of that. I don't know why he didn't think, okay, I'm presenting myself like I'm a millionaire online, but I'm going to bring her to a, $80,000 home. I don't know why he didn't think that that's what she would have thought, but oh well, that's all over and done with. But I did like Kobe's point for him to say that, hey, you kind of forced her in a situation where she was going to appear to the public like she was a gold digger. And you don't do that to someone that you love and you care for and you want to have a future with them. So then they talked about the hit, when she was hitting him on the back of the head. Everybody on stage thought that Bilal had definitely overreacted. Shaeeda said that she wasn't expecting him to react so strongly. He said that he would never, when he pulled over and acted like he was going to kick her out of the car, Bilal said on stage that he would never have kicked her out of the car. He wouldn't do that to anyone. And he said that he did apologize, about his behavior. And at this point, Guillermo says that he wants to grow up and be like Bilal, because I thought he was going to say, I like just how Bilal is always so calm and under control with himself. He doesn't get worked up. He doesn't get passionate. He doesn't get like overly dramatic when he's expressing himself. So I thought that's where Guillermo was going. But instead, Guillermo says, I like how it was so easy for Bilal to say he was sorry, to apologize. And he was impressed by that. So Patrick said, well, that's just a sales tactic that Bilal is using. It's just, and so then Patrick goes into the different ways that Bilal handles situations. Patrick was like, that's just all sales 101. How he will divert the conversation to something else, how he would point out, instead of like concentrating on the faults within himself, he turns it around and he sheds light on the faults in the other person. How he'll do the whole timeout thing. Patrick was like, that's just all sales, because he's in sales and he recognizes the tactics or the techniques that Bilal uses on Shaeeda. So I was like, great observation, Patrick. Very good observation, because I wouldn't have known. So then they talk about the prenup, and Shaeeda says, that she was not going to get married if the two things that she wanted were not going to be included in the prenup. She says that it was important for them to talk about how they were trying to have a baby before she turned 40, and also how he was going to help her start her business in Kansas City, that was going to be his responsibility to start the business for her in Kansas City, Missouri. And so the question was, what happens if you don't have a baby by the time you're 40? And I think that Bilal said that they were going to give it their best effort up until she was 40. The way that I took it wasn't like she had to have a baby. Oh, because the question was, if she doesn't have a baby by the time she's 40, what would be the consequence of that? Because a prenup is a contract, right? And so in a contract, it's kind of like, if this, then that. And then if this doesn't happen, then what's the consequence? So Sean was asking, if you don't have a baby, what is the repercussion of that? Well, there is no repercussion. It was just that I think Shaeeda wanted to try to make sure that having a baby was going to be a priority for Bilal. And so she wanted that on paper. And my assumption, the way that I looked at it, I didn't really think that there was going to be like a repercussion or a consequence if they didn't have a baby by the time she turned 40. I just assumed that they were going to go give it their best effort to have a baby, even if they have to take fertility treatments, or if they have to go through fertility treatment, that they were just going to give it their best effort, give it 1,000% to try to have this child. And by the time she's 40, if they didn't have a baby, then they would just let nature take its course. They were just kind of like, okay, we gave it our best shot. Now we're just going to chill. That's how I saw it. The ex-wife shows up. Like I said, her name and Shaeeda's name are very similar. And in order not to confuse myself and not to confuse my audience, I'm not going to call the ex-wife by her name because it sounds so similar to Shaeeda. And I don't know the nuances of their names. And so I'm just going to call the ex-wife the ex-wife. I'm not trying to disrespect her, but not saying her name. I don't want any confusion. So the ex-wife, she's about to take the stage. And before she takes the stage, I think they asked her, what is the purpose of you being here? And she said that she's there for an apology. She said said that there was some type of a miscommunication on Bilal and Shaeeda's part, and she needs them to apologize. But that never really happened. So I don't know what she was referring to. So she gets on stage, and they talk about the breakdown of her marriage to Bilal. And she said that the biggest issue that she had with Bilal and what caused them to get a divorce was that she was looking for a partner, a husband. And Bilal was always trying to treat her or talk to her as if she was a child. He was always lecturing. He was always talking down to her. So that was one of the major issues. His OCD about the cleanliness was just a little bit too much for her. She said he was a complete neat freak. So then the OCD of the cleanliness and the fact that he was more like a father figure to her instead of a partner or a husband, this is what led for her to file for divorce. And so they asked Shaeeda, are you concerned about this? And Shaeeda says that by them talking about it in this way, you know, the ex-wife expressing her thoughts and opinions on their divorce and whatnot, she's saying that hopefully this is resonating with Bilal, and so she wants to work on helping him. Now, I have two things to say about that. And thing number one is this. There's a YouTuber or a content creator that I watch, and her channel name is Erica De Niro TV. And she always talks about, ladies, you have to read the Yelp reviews, or gentlemen too, you have to read the Yelp reviews. And she means that when you know something about the person that you're dating or someone that you are planning to date, when you hear about what other people have experienced with them in that romantic type of relationship, pay attention. Okay, your current boyfriend or girlfriend, whatever their ex or exes have said about them, don't ignore it. Don't just brush it off as they're jealous, they're bitter, they're not over the breakup or whatever. Pay attention to what they're saying, because that's going to be your reality. That's your Yelp review. Okay, that's your Yelp review, because we would pay attention to any other Yelp review. Like if you're reading a Google review or a Yelp review about a restaurant or a product, we would pay attention. We'd be like, okay, this particular restaurant or this particular item's got 2 out of 5 stars. I'm not going to waste my time or waste my money on this. But then when other people talk about your current partner, about what they suffered with, what they went through, you just kind of, we always tend to ignore it and like, oh, they're just bitter, you know, they're upset that they don't have them, they're upset that what, you know, we make up all these excuses in our mind of why someone would say something negative about our current partner. But we need to pay attention. They've been through it. Okay. So the ex-wife has been through it. And the things that she's complaining about are the exact things that Shaeeda is complaining about now. The other thing that I wanted to say about this is that Bilal to me seems extremely rigid. I don't think he is willing to change. His OCD about the cleanliness, that's a character trait in him that's inbred. It's not going to go away. He can't just be like, okay, I'm not going to care anymore about cleanliness or neatness on the level that I care about it. We all want to be clean, we all want to be neat, but he takes it to a whole nother level. So for him to change and to bring it down a couple of notches, that's not going to happen on his own. He's going to have to go through like therapy or treatment to be a little bit more normal in that department. OCD is an official thing. Obsessive controlling, what is it? Obsessive controlling, I forgot what the D stands for. Disorder, obsessive controlling. That is a real diagnosis. That is a real thing. People really do have that. And it can get in the way of you living a normal life. And that's exactly where he is, because it's affecting his marriage. It affected his marriage. His ex-wife couldn't take it because the ex-wife said, you know, we have kids and kids are going to be kids. And the way he was with the cleanliness, it was just out of control. So Shaeeda, please pay attention. So then they talk about, Shaeeda says that, Sean brings up how, you know, Shaeeda, you haven't looked at the ex-wife since she's come on the stage, you know, like what's up with that? Why are you avoiding looking at her? And Shaeeda said that she is still hurt about how the ex-wife approached her when the ex-wife had paid her a visit in her home. She says, in my home, when she came over to my house, when she came into my home, Shaeeda didn't like how the ex-wife approached her about the prenuptial agreement. she was she did come on a little bit too strong. She did come on a little bit too aggressive. It wasn't from a place of, I care about you, I care about Bilal, let's make this work. Let's just have a conversation about this real quick, just us two ladies. It wasn't at all like that. She came she came there very defensive. You're not going to take what belongs to my children, what's owed to my children, this is for my children. Very, very defensive. And Shaeeda didn't appreciate that. And so that's why she's got this thing about the ex-wife. I think it's a whole lot more than that. It might have something to do with the fact that she doesn't get along with the ex-wife, but Bilal does. Because at the beginning of the season, Bilal said that him and his ex-wife are like best friends. That's his best friend. And I don't see how that could go over smoothly with Shaeeda, that your husband is really close to his ex, who you yourself don't get along with. So the ex-wife says that she views that, she said that Shaeeda saw it as me being very disrespectful, for me to talk about the importance of the prenup. And then Sean asked what Shaeeda thought about the reasons that the ex-wife gave for divorcing Bilal. And Shaeeda says that she believes Bilal will make the changes to allow their marriage to work. And all I can say to that is, I hope so too. I hope that he's going to loosen up a little bit and learn how to talk to you more as an equal and not as a person of authority, and not be so OCD about the cleanliness. And I don't see that Bilal and Shaeeda have made a lot of progress. A lot of people love this couple. They think Shaeeda and Bilal are a couple's goal. I don't think so. I don't feel that way. I think that Bilal is a very difficult person to live with. And I think that what's going to end up happening, Shaeeda is either going to have to bend, or she's going to probably end up leaving him. That's what I think is going to happen. I don't see Bilal making a lot of changes, because Bilal thinks that he's right. He thinks that the way he is the correct way. And I don't see why he would change if he believes that. I just don't see why he would change. So then Sean says, so Bilal, what do you think about, what you've heard thus far? And he said that he's going to work on it. I mean, what else can he say? Is he going to say, I'm not paying any attention to this, or I'm not going to change? Or like, what else is he going to say? Of course he's going to say that he's going to work on it. And as far as the prank, the ex-wife said that her feelings, the ex-wife was hurt for Bilal. The prank that he played on Shaeeda about the house. The ex-wife said that when she saw that, she felt bad for her husband. She felt like Shaeeda was ungrateful. The ex-wife said, I lived in that house for 2 years, and I was very grateful that I had that house to live in. So she said that, she was hurting for Bilal. So clearly, we see what's going on there. So the ex-wife doesn't see it for Shaeeda, and Shaeeda doesn't see it for the ex-wife, which is really sad, because they're a family now. Shaeeda is the stepmother to the ex-wife's children, and if Shaeeda and Bilal have children, those children are going to be the siblings of the ex-wife's kids. So they're a family, and this is just how it is. They need to make it work. There's always room for improvement. There's always a way to make things work. So let's just see how that goes with that. Moving on from there, let's get into... We didn't have a lot of Emily and Kobe. This wasn't their turn in this episode. Kobe is working, thank God. And he's working a whole bunch of overtime. And Emily said that she gets to be a stay-at-home mom like she always wanted. So we see what's up with that. I think she's just... Anyways, let me keep my mouth shut on that. So... and they had a baby girl. Her name is Scarlett. And like I said, it wasn't too much of Emily and Kobe in this particular episode, because we're going to get to them later. Next, we have Patrick and Thais. So Patrick and Thais, they both were surprised when Thais got pregnant, because Patrick thought that he was unable to get anybody pregnant because of the steroids that he was taking. It affected his fertility. So he was told by doctors that he had no chance in hell to ever father a child. So when Thais became pregnant, it was a shock. Patrick said that he never told Thais that he couldn't have children, which I'm like, damn, Patrick, these people are just unbelievable. You don't tell the woman that you want to marry or the woman that you're having feelings for that you are not able to father children, but then you'll go on and act like you want to have a family with her. That's just, oh, that's so cruel. That is just so cruel. Thais didn't tell Patrick. So Patrick didn't tell Thais that he couldn't father children, or he thought he couldn't father children. And Thais didn't tell Patrick when she got pregnant that she was pregnant. So she took 6 home pregnancy tests, and they all came out positive, but she still didn't tell him. I forgot what her reason was for not telling him. And then she didn't tell him until she got it confirmed by a doctor. And so she made Patrick make a doctor's appointment for her, but didn't tell Patrick what the appointment was for. But it was for her to confirm her pregnancy, I'm assuming. So that's when she finally told him that she was pregnant. Then they talk about the relationship. Okay, I was not interested at all in the history of the relationship as far as when Patrick was talking to this other girl and he was also talking to Thais. All of that, it didn't matter to me. I really didn't care. Just the bottom line, when Thais was still living in Brazil, Patrick, when he would go visit her, he was also seeing somebody else. He was actually seeing the other girl first, and then he started seeing Thais when the other girl broke up with him. Then the other girl came back into his life and wanted to date him again. So he was like going back and forth, whatever. I didn't care about that because it's over and done with. The other girl is out of the picture. Thais and Patrick are not married, expecting a baby. I didn't see the reason why we would have to spend so much time talking about this other than to explain why Thais is all up in his DMs, reading his DMs, but he doesn't read her DMs or something like that. And she had to explain the reason why into reading his DMs is because I don't trust him. You know, she has a trust issue because of this girl in the past. Okay, that was the only reason that we needed to know about that. So I didn't care too much about the other woman when he was dating her, when he was dating Thais. That stuff didn't really matter to me. Anything else about Patrick and Thais? Because everything is here is categorized. Okay, so then John comes out, Patrick's brother. He comes out, and I'm beginning to wonder if John has a drinking problem, because they talk a lot about stuff. Like when they were showing clips of the season, and John was in the clip. John, you could hear John saying on stage, "Oh, I don't remember that," and I'm just wondering if he might have a drinking problem. Anyways, moving on. So John comes out and he reveals that he probably by accident, in a drunken state of mind, had told a friend that Thais was pregnant before Thais was ready to tell anybody. And so Thais was upset about that because the person that John told announced it, or didn't announce it, but told Thais on Instagram, congratulations on the baby. And Thais was shocked because she hadn't told anyone at that time, at that point. And so she was upset with John about that. John does admit that Thais and Patrick are very good together. And John he still believes that Patrick is whipped. And then Jabri steps in and he says, okay, what's wrong with that? You know, he loves his woman. He'll do anything for his woman. He's whipped. So what? What's so bad about that? And so Jabri gets on John for disrespecting his brother's wife, you know, all the things that John has said about Thais. So Jabri gets on him for that. And so Jabri and Patrick, they go back and forth with this, juvenile back and forth, threatening to beat each other up. And I'm not going to get into that. And so, so Thais is pregnant, 16 weeks pregnant, and they're still together. It looks like everything is going well for them. And I'm happy for Patrick and Thais. Moving on to Kara and Guillermo. So Kara and Guillermo are also pregnant. Kara is also 16 weeks pregnant. And let me get to Kara and Guillermo. They talk about Kara's controlling ways. People on stage had a lot to say about that, specifically about the computer issue. So there was that episode where, in the very beginning, where Guillermo had told Kara he wanted to buy a computer with his own money. And Kara told him, no, we have to be a little bit more resourceful with our money, so you cannot buy a computer. We need to concentrate on other things. So some people on stage were on, Guillermo's side, basically like, hey, he can do whatever he wants with his money. And the way she talked to him, the way she handled that situation, it appeared like she was, talking down to him. She was talking to him in a very condescending way. Patrick had the biggest issue with it. Patrick said the way you were talking to him, you were talking to him like it was very condescending, and you were making him feel bad, but with the tone that you were using and how you were talking to him. And Patrick said this is like most American women, they're very controlling. And so Emily and Eve and Kara and Ari obviously were not in agreement with that. They were kind of like, we know better, so we're going to make the better decision in these type of situations. It's not us being controlling; it's us doing what's best for the relationship or for the partnership as a whole. Because Kara was like, to her, it was just about common sense. That's how she saw it. She didn't see it as her talking down to him, being condescending, being controlling, treating him like a child. She just saw it as it's very, very simple. We have a budget. This is what we do with our budget, and there was no room to buy a computer, and that's it. It was just a mathematical thing. It wasn't about me being a woman, him being a man, I'm controlling, or he's being controlled. It wasn't nothing about that. To her, it was just about simple math. And Patrick still stuck to his guns. He was like, it was still just the way you were saying it was wrong. And Kobe even chimed in and said that it's not about what is being said, it's just the tone that is being used and how you say it. Kobe says something about how 90% of the world's problems can be solved by using a better tone. I don't know about all that, Kobe, but I get your point. I get your point. I didn't agree with Kara. I didn't care about the tone that she used or whatever. I just felt like it was his money. He can't buy this one thing for himself. And so Kara and Emily were both like, okay, so, they have their own computers or whatever. There's a computer in the home. And how often do they even get on it? They barely even use it. So what's the point? Why are we arguing about this? And then they brought out Kara's ex boyfriend, Chris. Chris was also, he came on that stage like he was ready to fight. So they showed the clip with Chris where, he talked about Kara cheating on him. And, he comes on stage and he said that him and Kara dated for over 2 years. And that's why it affected him so bad. It wasn't just a high school fling, puppy love kind of thing, because Kara tried to downplay that relationship a whole bunch. And he was like, no, we were together for over 2 years. We were talking about getting married. It was a real deal, Holyfield type of relationship. And I was hurt by what she did. So, so he talks about, how it affected him when Kara cheated. And, he couldn't trust women ever again. And he also was kind of disrespectful when he talked about how wild the relationship was, how they could do whatever, whenever, however, and he made some obscene gestures. And I thought that was just so disrespectful. Anyways, so Kara addressed the cheating allegations. She downplayed it. It wasn't a big deal. She says that she had moved on. At some point, I don't know what she was talking about, but she was like, you know what? When that happened, I had moved on. I wasn't with him anymore. I was starting college. I was leaving my old life behind. And he was of the mindset that they were still together. So who the hell knows? But it's over now. This was a very long time ago, Chris. I don't want to be rude and say, Chris, get over it. But what are you going to do about it? Are you going to let this one thing, this one woman affect the rest of your life? You're going to give it that much attention, that much energy? Why don't you just, chuck it up to experience and be like, okay, call her whatever name you want to call her, and then just move on. Forget about Kara. So she's not worth it. So Sean then asked the group as a whole, has anyone ever cheated on their partner? And Emily chimes in and said that Kobe took a girl out on a date and paid for it. I don't know why she made that remark that he paid for it. Like, what else was he going to do? And when he was living in Cameroon, and I guess they were still together. I bet you Kobe was doing a whole lot in Cameroon while he was waiting to come to the United States. Let's not play games, okay? There's no way that I'm gonna believe that the whole time Kobe was waiting for waiting to come to the United States, that he was on the up and up. He wasn't interacting at all with any other female. Like, come on. Come on. Yeah. So, Emily talks about that, but I don't know how much that affected her because it didn't come up during the show. So have no idea. Maybe when their segment comes, we'll get more information on that. I don't know. And then Guillermo finally tells Kara, just apologize to the guy. And so she went ahead and she apologized to Chris. And then Chris was gone. Thank God. Moving on to Eve and Mohamed. So with Eve and Mohamed, let's see here. Where do we start with Eve and Mohamed? I have a ton of notes. Even Mohamed. So Mohamed says that he's not bothered by Eve's wardrobe. And I don't know how many times Mohamed had to explain to these people, I'm not bothered by her wardrobe. Jabri, he looked out for his boy Mohamed, and he was like, you know what, Mohamed, he's learning, he's adapting. They're going to work out. They're going to be fine. Obviously, Jabri doesn't see it for Ari and Binny. He's like, yeah, even Mohamed, they're fine. Mohamed is trying to work on his situation. He's getting acclimated to the culture here in America. And look, I am so sick and tired. Whenever there's someone and most of the time it's going to be the Muslim faith, other people feel the need to challenge them. Well, what about if your woman wears this? And what about if you look at that? What about if it's like, why do y'all do that? You know what kind of culture some people come from, right? Their culture is not like the way it is here, where it's just not. It's different cultures. So why is it everybody understands that. Everybody understands that he came from Egypt, a little bit more conservative than the United States. Certain things are not allowed. They believe in certain things that we don't. So when he gets here, why do people feel the need to challenge him on his beliefs? The beliefs that he's held ever since he was born. The beliefs that are held by his entire country and his whole entire family. Why challenge that? Instead of like working with him and showing grace and trying to understand him so that he can understand you, it's always, what if she comes out in a bikini? What if she goes to work naked? And what if she does this? Like, what do you want this man to say? You want him to say, I'm going to leave her? I'm going to just, divorce her and go back to... What is it that y'all are looking for? Anyways, so... like I said, your boy Jabri is looking out for Mohamed, and he's acknowledging and giving credit to Mohamed, saying, hey, he's working on it. He's, becoming more acclimated to what's going on here. So Mohamed realizes that Eve can wear whatever she wants, okay? Like I said before, Jabri gives him credit for learning to adapt. Kara comes in and she says, well, no one has the right to tell anyone how they should dress. Yes, in America, yes, in more westernized countries, more liberal countries, you're absolutely right, Kara. Nobody's arguing with you against that. Okay? So then Jabri says, but you have to understand that for him, it's a cultural thing because it's not like that in Egypt. And Jabri asked Kara, have you ever been to Egypt? Do you know what it's like in Egypt? And Kara's like, no. Okay, so then shut up. You don't understand, Kara. Then they talk about the sponsor talk. Everybody agreed that it was absolutely wrong for Mohamed to say, well, I just find myself another sponsor, because it made Eve look like she's replaceable. My opinion on Eve and Mohamed is I don't think this is going to work. I don't think that it's going to work because that's the one thing that made me no longer really believe in even Mohamed, was when Mohamed said, if it doesn't work out, I'm just going to get another sponsor. And here on the show, he explained that Eve was supposed to turn in some type of paperwork, but she didn't. So he was getting frustrated with her. So he was like, you know what, if you're not going to do what you need to do to help me become a citizen, then I need to get another sponsor. So for him to say that, it totally looked like he thought Eve was replaceable. It made it seem like you're using her for you to become a citizen here, and that if she's not going to help you, you're going to find somebody else to help you. This has got nothing to do with love, commitment, how you feel about her. It did come off like that when he said that. And that's why I think that they're not going to work. So Sean says, she asks Eve, did you lead him on into thinking that you were going to change your life for him? And Eve said no. And I'm like, what, girl? Of course you led him on to think that. Because in the beginning of the season, she was throwing away her clothes, the clothes that she knew Mohamed would not approve of. She was in her closet and her friend was with her, and her friend was questioning her, like, why would you even do this? And she was like, well, Muhammad doesn't improve. And so she was throwing stuff out left and right. So she totally made him believe that she was going to change her life for him. Muhammad's family, Muhammad says that his family, they do feel embarrassed by the pictures that she puts online. And that's fine. They can feel that way because that's their culture, that's their belief, whatever. There's people here in America who probably would not feel too comfortable with their son's wife posting pictures of themselves scantily clad or whatever the hell. So that's okay. If they don't like it, if they think it's embarrassing, that's their opinion. They can think that. Let's leave his family out of it. Muhammad does say that their religion does not teach them to judge others, so they're not judgmental. They just would prefer that she didn't do it or whatever. So Miona says, well, how strong is your relationship if it can be broken by a bikini? Who said the relationship can be broken by a bikini? Have y'all not heard this man say several times? He's getting used to the way she dresses. He's accepting it. He's not interfering with how she wants to dress. It's okay with him. So why would you ask him, how strong is your relationship if it can be broken by a bikini? Evidently, she was wearing a bikini. She posted it online. And guess what? They got married. They're still together. So, and then on top of that, there are non-Muslim men, like American men who are not Muslim, never raised a Muslim, who don't want their wives walking around in bikinis, who don't want their wives walking around with cleavage showing, with, short, very short shorts or very short dresses and skirts. They don't want that. They don't want their women wearing anything that's going to show their curves. There are men who are not even Muslim. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong, but they're not even Muslim who think that way. So Muhammad is not the first and he won't be the last. And he says he's adapting. He's getting used to it. He doesn't interfere with how she dresses anymore. But you see how she came out on this damn stage. She was in a muumuu. Okay, so like if she's so free and comfortable with how why did she? Anyways, maybe it doesn't even matter. But she was in a muumuu on that stage, and that's what whatever. So, anything else about Eve and Mohammed? They got me so, Eve always gets me worked up. Eve gets me so damn worked up every single time I talk about that woman. And then when her friend comes out, I'm gonna really go off. Yeah, he's not bothered by it. Oh, okay. So then Jabri versus Ari. Okay, Jabri really has it in for Ari. And I was like, where is all this aggression coming from with Ari? So he's learning. Okay, so he says that Ari and Benny are not going to work out because his whole thing was, oh, by the way, okay, let's talk about Ari and Benny. Benny got his green card and Benny can work now. And they asked him what he wanted to do. And he said that he wanted to continue with his MMA. So Jabri tells Ari that her jealousy will hinder his career and that, Ari is just completely hating. And so, okay, so Jabri's problem with Ari is that, Ari had said that, yes, I support Benny and him wanting to be an MMA fighter. I support that. But I just want him to be realistic. And so when she said those words, I just want him to be realistic, that's what really triggered Jabri. So Jabri was like, for you to say that, you're not supporting him. For you to say that, you're hindering his dreams. You're getting in the way of his dreams. Just say, I support him and leave it at that. Don't say, but you have to be realistic. Because, Jabri's a dreamer. Jabri is your quintessential dreamer. Anything you set your mind to, it can be achieved, it can be done. Whatever you want to do, go and do it. If you want to be a movie star, if you want to be an MMA fighter, if you want to be whatever, Jabri's the kind of person that's like, just go for it. You can do it. Yes, let's do it. So he's not about plan Bs. He's not about being realistic. He's not about looking at the pros and cons of things. He's just like, if you want to do it, go for it. So if anybody talks about, let's approach this logically, you're a hater to him. You're a hater in his eyes. So that's why he really can't stand Ari, because she believes that Ari is getting in the way of her man's dreams. Also, they talked about Ari's jealousy. Ari did admit that, hey, yeah, I overreacted when he was fighting with the female fighter. My jealousy was out of control. She did admit that. Kobe then says that you can't be in love without being jealous. And I'm like, excuse me? What? So the only way you can love someone is to have some type of jealousy. I don't understand that. I really don't get that. Because you can be very, very jealous and not even be in love. Jealousy and love to me have nothing to do with each other, because you can love someone and not have any type of jealousy, because guess what? You have trust. Why would you be jealous if you have trust? I don't get it. Because if Ari really trusted Benny, she would not have been jealous to see Benny fighting with the female partner. That wouldn't have bothered her, because she would have had enough trust in her man to know that nothing could ever happen between Benny and his female partner. I think jealousy comes from insecurity. If you're insecure, it's because you believe there's no trust. So if you have jealousy, then you're insecure. If you're insecure, then you don't have any trust. That's to me, that's pretty simple. Because if you have trust and you have confidence in your relationship, you can see your partner practicing with the female partner, whatever, and you're not going to go crazy. Someone sent them a DM, you're not going to go crazy. So I didn't agree with Kobe at all, and it's very unhealthy, in my personal opinion. It's unhealthy to believe that jealousy has to be a factor in your relationship. Like, it just has to be there to prove that you're in love. There has to be some form of jealousy. I don't agree with that at all. I really don't. Emily tells us that Kobe's DMs are, are lit. Okay, they are lit. A whole bunch of women are coming after Kobe. I can see why. Because of the fact that, he is a very good looking guy. He has a really nice body. He's charming, charismatic, So obviously and then the way that Emily treats him, of course, is going to bring the women out of the woodworks to try to come after Kobe and offer him green cards, and I'll get you a green card. I'll do this and I'll do that for you. It doesn't make any sense. It's sad if you believe that jealousy means that you have a healthy relationship. That's very, very sad to me. Yeah. Okay. So we talked about that. Tyson and Kara are both pregnant. They're both 16 weeks pregnant. We talked about that. Kobe's working. They had a baby girl. Okay. I think that's the end of my very long review for this very long show. 2 hours, y'all. Insane. So hopefully we'll talk more about Kobe and Emily, Benny and Ari in the next episode. And I kind of wondered if Ari I got one more thing before I go. There was, at some point, Ari had said something about, well, I love Benny. I don't know if he loves me. She said that. She has said that before, during the season. She has said something about, like, well, I love him. I'm in love with him. I don't know if he loves me. Girl, what is going on? Well, maybe she can see it, because I can see it. I don't think that Benny is as much into her as she is into him. If, for example, I don't think that Benny would ever want to separate from Ari because he doesn't want to lose his son. So even if Ari came to him and said, look, you can stay in the United States, you got your papers, so you're going to stay here, you're going to be fine, but we're just not working out, so maybe we need to separate or get a divorce. I have a feeling that Benny would not be too keen on that because he'd be so worried about losing his son. But I don't think Benny is into Ari as much as Ari is into him. And when she says things like that, well, I love him, I don't know if he loves me, that shows me that Ari can sense that maybe she's more into him than he is into her. That maybe she can tell that Benny probably is, I don't know, falling out of love with her, or he doesn't feel for her the same as he used to, or something. There's something going on there for her to say that, because I don't think it's normal or natural for a wife to say that about her husband. That is something that a woman would say, or a man would say, in the very beginning of the relationship, where you're not really sure how the other person feels, but you're already head over heels for them. But y'all have been together for so many years. You have a child. Y'all are married. So for you to say, well, I love him, I don't know if he loves me, shows that there's a crack in that relationship. And finally, that is the end of my review. Thank you so much for joining me. If you made it this long, 43 minutes, I really do appreciate it. On your way out, do not forget to rate the video. If you like this content, please hit the subscribe button. If you don't like it, don't worry about it, but thank you for stopping by anyway, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.